Hi everybody, I'm Maggie Shayne and this is the Coffee House blog. Welcome. Today's post is, I Stand Alone. The title of this post is both a shout out to Godsmack, one of my favorite bands, and a sly reference to my two standalone novels almost nobody knows about. Also in progress on a long-awaited sequel and the completion of number 116. Part 1, The Frozen Dude. The book, Miranda's Viking, came to me as a fully developed scene, like a vision playing out before my eyes. A woman in a white lab coat, standing in front of a control panel, frantically turning knobs. She's in a room like a lab or some sort of hospital room or some combination of the two. The camera backs up, panning the view wider. Behind her, there's a table with this sheet-covered form of a body, a huge body, a body that suddenly takes a strangled breath as the sheet falls away, revealing this huge, muscular, dangerous, beautiful man. That's all I got. That's where it started. That's all I got. I knew in short order that the man was a frozen specimen recovered from a glacial cave by a team of archaeologists. He is a 10th century Viking and is being kept in their climate-controlled lab so that they can study him. His name is Rolf Magnusson. His nickname, the Plague of the North. This book got me noticed, partly because it was published in Silhouette's Intimate Moments line, which is the romantic suspense line, not Silhouette Shadows, the paranormal line. Because really the only thing paranormal was that he'd survived somehow, and that's really more science fiction. The original cover was something. The original cover, I can't say that word. The original cover blew me away. If you look closely, you can see that this model is either packing some heat or has an extra pair of socks tucked into his jeans. Looking at it now, I think he looks a little bit like my husband, a guy I hadn't even met when I wrote this book. Holy shit, babe. How you doing? Shoot, he might need to come home early today. Here's the current cover. So Rolf comes to life in the modern age, and Miranda, an archaeologist who's deemed herself frigid after an assault and is so not comfortable around a big oaf without a clue about modern morality. And she has to teach him everything. And she has to keep it a secret that he's come to life because science would want to experiment on him and she can't allow that. Now, this was only my 5th, I think, novel. And I knew that once the book was complete and edited by my main editor, and I had done any requested revisions, it would then go out to a freelance copy editor to catch the little stuff. Inconsistencies, historical inaccuracies, misplaced commas. Up to now, my copy editors had been great. This time, however, I got a mean, shitty, sarcastic little snot. Back then, we sent printouts and got them back with edits marked on the pages in blue pencil. When I got Miranda's Viking back, it was marked up like I'd never seen, with snarky comments all over the place. This copy editor questioned how Rolf could have found North America from Greenland, despite that his cohorts had done just that multiple times in real history. She questioned whether he'd brushed his teeth. She did things like, after I wrote, Rolf stomped away, she added in blue pencil, his feathers thoroughly ruffled.
Ew.
She insulted my writing at every turn. At first, I was devastated and paralyzed and questioning whether I had any business writing at all. I'd got it on a Friday in the mail, back when we did things that way. A big stack of pages with blue pencil all over my neatly typed lines. I couldn't even email my editor until Monday, and I kept going back over it all weekend. And each time I began to go through it, I got a little less hurt and a little more pissed off. Who did this shithead copy editor think she was dealing with? I had published 4 novels. 4! So by the time Monday came and I could email Melissa, I was no longer devastated and questioning my ability to write my way out of a paper bag. I was furious. And I told her I was sending the printout back to do with whatever she wanted and suggested she might want to put the copy editor's name on the book when it came out. Welp, she confessed that she hadn't seen the copy edit. It was just forwarded straight to me. And when she did see it, she was as pissed off as I was. Well, I don't think anyone could have been as pissed off as I was, let's face it. She said she went home that day covered in eraser bits from removing the copy editor's snarky comments. And she promised I'd never have to work with that person again, to which I replied, no author should ever have to work with her, ever. The manuscript was sent to a new copy editor who did a great job with it. That is probably the angriest I've ever been over anything in my career. But I did decide to show Rolf brushing his teeth on the page, just in case. Now, this current cover is one I created myself. The book is waiting its turn in line for a new one at my publisher, Oliver Heber Books. When I made the cover, I was not with them. This book, when it was first released, was the one that impressed editor Cindy Wong at Penguin Putnam, a competing publisher, so much that she chatted me up at a writers' conference where we met and asked me to submit something to her. The resulting work became the Immortals series. And OMG, I loved working with Cindy. It was different, this book, Miranda's Viking, especially within its line, a suspense line. But the line's executive editor was Leslie Wanger. Huge fan of the paranormal and of sci-fi romance. Silhouette Shadows was her baby. And since there was nothing much out there like it, Miranda's Viking got a lot of attention. It won the Golden Leaf Award from the New Jersey Romance Writers, and it received a coveted 5-star review from the unchallenged queen of romance reviewers at the time, the late Harriet Klausner. She was so respected that we authors had pins made. They were button-type pins, the round ones, and they were pink with 5 gold stars arcing across the top over the words, Harriet Knows. And we wore them if we had ever had a 5-star review from Harriet. The lowest score on a book review that I ever got from Harriet Klausner was 3 stars, and the review was among those in her final piece. I've never had less than a 4, and she'd been reviewing me forever. I could only assume she passed away before she'd finished adding stars. I can't recall which title that 3-star review was for, and I probably wouldn't tell you if I did. Part 2, Written in the Stars. My second standalone title was originally titled Star Woman, and it too was a rare science fiction entree into Silhouette Intimate Moments, which, as I've mentioned, was the suspense line. At the time, Silhouette had a habit of using a book's entire plot for its title. For example, The Texas Brands, Book 4, my title, Long Gone Lonesome Blues. Like the Hank Williams song? No, you can't copyright titles. You're welcome. But it didn't matter because Silhouette changed the title to, are you ready? The Husband She Couldn't Remember, who lived in the house on that road with that barn and the cattle. I don't know. You got to tell the whole story in the title? Crazy. So naturally, my sci-fi romance, Star Woman, a total reverse role homage to Starman starring Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen. Remember that? Oh, watch it. It was great. It was retitled, my book, not Starman, Star Woman, was retitled Out of This World Marriage. That year, brides on covers and wedding words in titles were selling like hotcakes. They had an entire department measuring what words and images sold best. Hence the word marriage showing up in the title and the wedding gown on the cover. And they were terrified of paranormal elements and sci-fi elements. They didn't know what to do with them. But one thing they did not want to do with them was show any hint of them on the cover. So here's the original cover of my sci-fi alien romance. Wow. And come to think of it, Miranda's Vikings cover really said nothing about sci-fi or paranormal either. It was just a sexy hunk. For some reason, I was quite okay with that one. Now, does this cover of Out of This World Marriage say, small town doctor finds beautiful alien crashed in his back 40 to you? My current cover at least conveys the plot, and I retitled it Stargazer, which I think I like better than Star Woman. This is another cover I did myself. And again, it's in line for a makeover. You can ignore that Shayne's Shenanigans thing on there. I had put that on both Miranda's Viking and Stargazer, and somehow I got it off one and not the other, but they're not linked. They're not part of a series. These are both standalone novels. Anyway, in Stargazer, Dr. Duffy has been seeing UFOs since he was a little boy, and one time he saw one land. He ran out into the night and encountered the most beautiful little girl he'd ever seen. She was lost and terrified, and he helped her. And when he held her hand, he knew he'd remember her forever. And then they found her family spaceship and she got back in and flew away. So that was an interesting childhood dream. At least that's what he thinks now, until she comes back. Here's the RT review. Maggie Shayne knocks our socks off with Out of This World Marriage, the fascinating tale of a cynical doctor who rediscovers his emotional side when he rescues a lovely space traveler from a government operative out to take her into custody. Ms. Shayne demonstrates an absolutely superb touch, blending fantasy and romance into an outstanding reading experience. Isn't that nice? 5 stars. I loved this story. Fun twist. On Janella's home planet, women rule and men drool, especially if you gave their shock collars a little tweak. Yeah, fun times. So those are my 2 standalone titles that are not part of a series but are both overdue for an update. And they're both worth the read, even before they get their new covers. Although if buying them in paperback, wait for the new covers. They'll be so much nicer. However, if you're getting them in they'll update, so you're golden. Now an update. Book number 116 is complete. Lone Wolf is finished. I can't tell you how good it feels to finish a book, even after 116. I'm still wearing Wolf's bracelet on my wrist. Let's see if I can get this in the camera. I wrote one into the story, and then I found one in the house. Source unknown. And I've been wearing it ever since. The book is off to the editor. She'll be doing it this weekend. She's very fast, so I'll get it back to begin the 3rd draft on Monday. I do not anticipate that taking more than a week, and then off it goes to my publisher. I'm already contemplating what's next. I love how Lone Wolf turned out. I'm debating between 2 characters for the next one in this series, but I'm pretty sure of who it is. I just don't have the story yet. I also have in my hot little hands the first draft of another book that I will be second drafting soon. I might dive into this for the month of March and just devote the whole month to it. This is in the McIntyre Men series. You know, there's a story of the neighboring Wakeland family, friends of the Brands. The story is Baby by Christmas, and it was always intended to be one of 3. I now have a start on book 2 of that mini series within a series from my co-writer, Jessica Benson. She's also my daughter. As soon as I am finished with it, we'll be requesting new covers for both the books with their own unique look within this series and the author's up-to-date name. There will be one more of these. So there's one now, Baby by Christmas. There's the one I'm working on throughout March. And then there will be a 3rd one coming soon, and that will complete the McIntyre Men series. So, in short, I got everything done by Friday evening, except the recording, which I'm doing over the weekend. And I took most of the weekend off to celebrate finishing yet another novel. Basking. See you next time.